You're gonna need 1 inch webbing. This is a snap hook, metal snap hook that I got from Buckle Guy. This is a ladder lock. This is a 1 inch loop. Obviously make sure all of your hardware is for 1 inch webbing. You can make 3/4 inch. Here's a little chart of some names. Also probably need a lighter, measuring tape. I use this glue. You don't need that. And obviously whatever thread. I'm trying something different here with the color. Um, and of course a yo-yo is useful to help double check measurements against if you need that. So here's one I've already made, just to kind of give you an idea of size, length, the mechanism, something to check against. Something I noticed later on, after making a few of them, is that they put a something inside in between the two layers of webbing to increase the structural integrity, I guess. I like to burn the edges of the nylon webbing. So the first piece I'm going to cut is for the small tab, the pull tab that releases the yo-yo. Cutting this at 6.5 inches. Again, burn the edges. For the most part, these will be folded over and kind of tucked away, so they shouldn't really be exposed too much if they do start fraying. Second piece I'm going to cut is the main strap. I believe I cut that at 21 inches. That seems to work for all the yo-yos that I have. If you had a yo-yo with a really large outer diameter, it actually looks like I'm marking this at 22, giving myself a little bit of extra that I can trim down at the end, but I didn't end up trimming it, so 22, go 22. Yeah, if you have like a yo-yo with really wide rims, like a 4A yo-yo or something like that, you could definitely make this bigger. Next, I'm cutting the inner strap. So my initial design just had 2 layers sewed together for the strength. But again, then I figured out, or it seems that they have a extra piece sandwiched in between those two, so I'll make that in a second here. But I cut this at 7 inches, and you'll see later why it's so long. You only need about 5 inches for the part that contacts the yo-yo, but I sew the end up into the tab where the buckle is, so that that's also a little bit stiffer. So this is just that stiffener piece. You could put some other fabric in there, a different kind of webbing, but just to kind of make this quickly, I went ahead and cut a 4.5 inch piece of the 1 inch webbing, and I'm going to trim it down to about 3/4 of an inch. This will be fully enclosed in the other pieces of the webbing, so you don't have to worry about it fraying, but this just makes sure that it doesn't start peeling while I'm sewing it together. And those are the pieces that you need. For this particular holster that I'm making, I wanted to add this orange thread to the inside of the webbing just to make it look a little more interesting. So you do not have to do this, but just something that can be done, I guess. All right, so forgot to hit the record button a couple times, so I apologize for that. But this is that inner piece that I need to attach to the main strap. So in my case, it ended up being a little bit longer than 7 inches away from the edge. Um, and this is where I use that glue. You could tack this in place with your sewing machine. You could probably use like hem tape. In fact, I probably should have used hem tape, but I don't know. I grabbed this contact cement. Contact cement, you just put it on either side of the two pieces, let it dry, and then it'll bond really well together. So just gonna kind of go through this quickly, not make you watch all of it, but again, I kind of glue this piece about 7 inches away from the end of the webbing. And then while this was drying, I sewed together the tab, the pull tab, and unfortunately forgot to hit record. So that looks like this. You can kind of see how the two ends again fold back. If you've ever hemmed anything, it's a similar process. I'm not doubling it over or anything, but each end gets sewn on top of the other. After that contact cement dries a little bit, tack that down in place. And then we're pretty much ready to just go back to the sewing machine and put everything in place. The first thing I'll do is attach the other inner lining piece. So that was my slightly longer strap that I cut. And again, I'll kind of fold that back on itself just to cover that exposed end. The other end will be left up inside the tab where the buckle or the clip sits. So you can see how I'm folding that back on itself, setting it right at the edge of that extra piece of support, and then I'll get this piece secured. Main thing when sewing these two pieces is you want to be pretty close to the edge of the webbing, but obviously you just have to make sure you get both pieces together. So I like to go pretty slow and just make sure I'm lining everything up. I have a walking foot sewing machine, which definitely helps, but you can do this, and I did most of my other holsters on a domestic sewing machine. Most important thing is just get the right size needle, something slightly larger, denim or above, and then just go slow. Just take your time. All right, once that's on, just kind of sealing the ends of my thread here. Basically, now we have to put the buckles in place before we start doing some of the other sewing. So I'll put that snap clip on that top part of the strap, that 7-inch section of the strap. And then we'll thread the webbing through that ladder lock. It goes from the bottom side of the back around the tab and then back through up to the buckle. This piece is somewhere between 1.5 inches and 2 inches long, but you really just line it up so that it's centered there between the extra support piece that you put on, so it kind of works itself out. And I just like to try to make things as even as I can in there. With webbing, the more you sew it, the stiffer and more rigid it will be. So on this strap, I just did 2 tacks at the top near the buckle and the bottom near the ladder lock. But if you were to do like a box or an X stitch, it would stiffen it up even more, if that's something that you want. But when I do these tacks, basically all I do is do a straight stitch across, keep the needle buried in the webbing, and flip it around 180 degrees, and just go back and forth like that, 3 or 4 times, and that's going to be plenty strong enough for this. Alright, once that's all tacked in place, you're just going to thread the other end up through the center. Don't forget to add your pull tab at this point. Pull tab goes in the middle there before bringing the webbing back through the front of the ladder lock. And then here we can test the functionality, make sure everything's sliding all right. We'll grab the yo-yo and double check our size. I thought I had left about 1 inch extra, so I thought I might need to trim it, but it actually ended up being pretty perfect. So use that pull tab to release, create some space. Just kind of measure, of course, around the outside of the yo-yo. You want to make sure you have a nice amount of air. Get it in and out pretty easily. And then, of course, when we do that tab, we'll fold the end back on itself 1 time. So I'm just trying to make sure that that looks okay. Let's see if I should cut off any, but I end up not cutting any off. And then similarly, once you're at this point, I just try to make sure that those tabs are roughly the same size. It can look a little funky if they're wildly different. So just try to make sure that the amount you fold back on itself is similar in size, and then that tab is pretty close. And then you just tack it down. Same thing, back and forth 3 or 4 times.